All right, joining me now here on the Matthew Filipowicz Show is Ellen Dannin. Ellen is the author of a series of reports on the impacts of privatization for TruthOut, which you can find at truth-out.org. Ellen, thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me on.
All right, so Ellen, you recently wrote at TruthOut about one kind of disturbing aspect of privatization, and that is the privatization when it comes to housing of members of the military. Why don't you start out and tell us about the piece? And actually, it actually began in the Clinton presidency, and it's actually it's obviously continued on. But talk about the beginning of it with the Clinton administration.
Right, and for anybody who wants to read it, it's the title of that piece at TruthOut is Home Sweet, in parens, Privatized Military Home. So Home Sweet, Privatized Military Home. So that piece falls within the middle of a number of blogs that I've been writing focused specifically on privatization. And I write these blogs because I want to bring more information into the public discussion on important issues. So in writing the TruthOut blog, I wanted to take people back to the Clinton-Gore administration and some of the things that they were promoting, one of which was privatization. And they had a quite conservative kind of take on a lot of things that they were doing. So that's, they referred to some of these things, in terms of commercialization. They were really they talked about jobs as being inventory, as though it was, baseballs or sports equipment that you're going to buy, not things that are happening to people's lives. So that's sort of a basic concept of what I got started on talking about, to bring that knowledge back to people's consciousness.
So prior to this, describe what the situation was when it comes to military housing prior to these changes that were made, because before that, the military actually owned the majority of these units, correct? Mm-hmm. And then there was a distinct change in that we were going to get away from that and actually try to go into actually privatizing the actual homes themselves. Describe what the situation before and how it shifted.
Well, there have been a number of shifts in terms of how military housing is going to be provided. And the blog mentions that in 1996, for example, the Department of Defense owned, maintained, and these 300,000 family housing units for the military. And when Clinton was succeeded by the Bush 2 years, Bush, of course, had made privatization a huge push as part of his administration. One of the things that I was particularly interested in was the ebb and flow of whether people think that things should be privatized, like privatizing military housing, or whether it should be in the public sector. And in addition to that, if you're not going to be just, team private and team public, what are ways that you can make a logical judgment about whether something like military housing should be in the private sector or the public sector?